I moved into university accommodation around 2 weeks ago, and in this video I'm going to be going over exactly how you create a desk setup using my own example, and also how you make it as productive as possible. Before I get into it, I want to tell you a bit about me. Around 2 years ago, I was very fat, I was kind of stupid, and I didn't get good grades in class, and it's a long story, but I also couldn't read. However, 2 years later, I am now jacked in shape. I go to one of the best universities in the world, and also I have gotten very good GCSEs and very good A levels, and have done things on the side. So if you want to go through a similar transformation in both your fitness and productivity, click on the subscribe button down below. So before I get into my desk setup, I just want to caveat this video with, this isn't like a normal cute little desk setup tour. This specific video is for people who want to be as productive as possible. So if you go through YouTube or you go through social media and you look for desk setup videos, most of the desk setup videos are obsessing over the aesthetic value of the actual desk rather than how productive you can be on the desk. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining exactly how you create a very productive desk setup, like the three main components of it, and also showing you my own one here in my university accommodation. The first component of creating a very productive desk setup is having it distraction free. So when I moved into my university accommodation, there was like a choice between having a shared room and having a private room, and I knew that, like, because I take productivity quite seriously, I would want a private room because it is distraction free. In my house, when I had my desk in my desk set up in my house, the thing with that is, like, anyone could come into my room at any time, and sure, like, that's okay if it's family and everything. However, if you are serious about productivity, if you're serious about like achieving the grades you want, building the business, whatever, you don't want to have that many distractions around you. And I know that if you have a desk set up like my one, where you don't really have people around you, like, you could have that in many different ways. However you plan to implement that. So that could be, if you're living at home, like telling your parents that you can't enter my room during this period of time, or just like if you're moving into university, opting for the private room section. You don't want to have distractions around you when you work. If you've ever read the book Deep Work, you know that whenever you have a distraction in your flow state, so whenever you get into deep work, whenever you're doing work, one distraction can, like, as simple as checking your phone next to you, can put you out of the flow state for about 15 minutes. So any like people walking in, any notifications you get randomly when you're working can cause you up to 15 minutes of your flow state gone. And imagine like how many times people check their phone like normally when they're working. Like that can compound into hours. The first major component of having a good desk setup is having it distraction free. This doesn't just mean people. Also, like, don't have your phone near you. So my phone charging port is over there, like the other side of my room. So I don't have it on my desk. My desk is like relatively, it doesn't really have anything I can like randomly go and scroll on, you know what I mean? So having it very distraction free in every possible way is the first principle of having a productive desk setup. The second key component of having a productive desk setup is having it clean. Now, this order that I gave you these steps in are actually in order of importance. So you want to have it distraction free first, then clean, and then have it like aesthetic, which is the next step. However, cleanliness is so important. I didn't realize this at first. I think I'm a naturally messier person. However, I used to have a very, very like cluttered desk. I used to have past papers on one side. I used to have like random like coffee mugs on one side. I used to have like a protein shaker on the top of my desk. And then I used to try working. This was back in A levels when I was doing like my past papers. And there was just something about it that just, it wasn't a good reflection of my mental state, if you get what I mean. Like, it's weird to explain why a messy desk causes a lack of productivity, but you definitely do feel it. There's been studies showing that a messier desk causes an increased cognitive load, which is basically like when working hard, like regardless of what your goals are, either these are like academic or like building a business, is hard enough, you know what I mean? Like, the A-level paper is hard enough. If you just increase like the friction to work, it's going to be so much more harder to work, which therefore decreases productivity, you know what I mean? So when I used to have a like very messy desk, I think the increased friction like to work was causing me to be less productive, and that therefore caused me to slack off and stuff. But the key component in this framework is you really need to have a somewhat clean desk all the time. And the way you achieve this is by having a deep work routine. So I've made a full video on how you do this thing called deep work. Deep work is basically a specific way of working towards your goals. So it's like no distractions, and you work like a lion. Basically, you sprint through the deep work session with no distractions. However, before you do that, you can kind of ritualize this deep work session. In your ritual, you want to have a tick box where you clean your desk, basically. So before any time you work, you want to have that habit of just cleaning up your desk and then working. And just integrating that into your routine will cause you to just have a cleaner desk in general. So like, if you can see my desk here right now, it's pretty clean. So, and I didn't even like clean it that much before filming. So having a very clean desk reduces friction to your work, and therefore causes an increase in productivity. Notice I haven't told you to buy anything for your desk. I haven't like said like, oh, like you have to buy this mechanical keyboard to be more productive. No. Just having the distraction free like environment and having a clean environment is good enough. The third, like least important part of this setup, which is the aesthetic value of the desk. I've tried working in a very like just white or black environment, and I have noticed that like it's kind of dry to work in. It's not very comfortable to just work in a very clean, spotless, no personality desk. And that's why you want to add to the aesthetic value of your desk as well. This doesn't mean you go crazy and like you spend hundreds of pounds on like random stuff, but I'm just talking about like a plant here and there. I have like these things, like random things, like a lamp on my desk. I have like stuff on my wall and everything, just to make the process of staying productive more easier to go into. Because if you have it too clean, if you have it too distraction free, that could also be a disadvantage as well. So this doesn't mean you go and like spend hundreds of dollars. What I would recommend you to make your desk somewhat aesthetic is to go on a website called Pinterest and search up aesthetic desk setup. And some of the pictures there are going to be really, really like unrealistic for you to implement. But then if you scroll a bit, you're going to find one that will kind of match your desk or like your setup. And you want to emulate that so it's easier for you to work in going forward. So the 3 steps are having it distraction free, having it clean, somewhat clean, and having it aesthetic in some way. It doesn't mean again, like whenever I say aesthetic, people think that I mean you have to spend like loads and loads of money on it. No, you don't have to spend any money on your desk, genuinely. Like you just have to make it clean, distraction free, and somewhat aesthetic. Like have a plant on your desk, and that adds to the aesthetic value. Once you've hit all 3 points of this framework, you've kind of maxed out the productive value of your desk. Like anything more is not going to add to your like productivity per se. So hopefully now you understand exactly how you set up a productive desk setup, and hopefully I've inspired you in a way to do that. If you want to see more videos on productivity and fitness, click on the subscribe button down below and send this video to someone who has a trash desk setup. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.